Hi folks, so today's video is a late summer tour of our polytunnels here in the south of England growing zone 9A. And we have got two 54-foot long polytunnels that we grow crops in. And our polytunnels have been a mixture of excitement and disaster this year. So I'm going to actually start in polytunnel 2 today, which is the tunnel that Dan tends to look after more, because we have got some pretty exciting things going on in here right now. And then I'll tell you what's been happening in tunnel 1 in a bit. So we'll come down this side first, and this is a jungle of hot peppers. We have got more hot peppers than we are going to know what to do with this year. Some of them aren't quite ready to harvest yet, but one variety which we've grown for the first time this year called Cyclone, which is similar to a pepper that you can use like smoked paprika or paprika pepper. This chili is ripening the fastest out of all of them. And this plant has collapsed a little bit here, but you can see all these beautiful red chilies. And I've been harvesting red chilies from this variety for probably at least 6 weeks already. But I'm actually going to have to go back through some old footage from our first polytunnel video of this year just to double check the order that we planted these different varieties of chilies in to remind myself what they all are. But we've got cayenne peppers in here. I think this one's cayenne here. They tend to redden off a lot later. And I grow those to dry and then grind into flakes to use for hot peppers throughout the year. I've had jars last for 2 years before, so it's brilliant. We've got Vindaloo is another variety we're growing in here. We've got jalapenos, all of our favourites. So we're going to be freezing them, we're going to be drying them, we are going to be doing everything we can with chilies to preserve them. I pickle the jalapenos, or the jalapenos I should say. Yeah, so love our hot peppers. The next super exciting thing going on in this tunnel is the melons. And we have been harvesting melons for about a week or so now. We've got 4 different varieties in here in total. We've got watermelons, which I'll show you in a minute. We've got a variety called Woman's Collective Farm, which is down here. This one here. And this is a pearl of flesh inside, but really nice and crisp. But unfortunately, I noticed we've missed one and it's fallen off here and it is breaking down and giving back to the soil. So yeah. And then we've got D. Charentaise, which is one of our favourites for flavour. That's that one there. And then we grew a different one this year with a really orange flesh, which is why I got it, and I can't remember the name, so I'll have to look that one up. But I think that is this variety here, because I don't recognise this one. But these 2 melons here literally look ready to go, so we're going to have to grab at least one of these today. So yeah, melons, super exciting. We'll have a look at the watermelons in a bit. Now we've got to come down this way a little bit carefully through the pepper jungle. We've also got a few plants of sweet peppers in here. This is a baby orange variety. And I grow these because depending on the summer, we can't always get the larger sweet peppers to fully ripen off. But this smaller variety is really quite reliable, and they're great to just chop up and add to salads, or you could actually pickle them and stuff them would also be really nice. So yeah, that's super cool. We've got the trombone courgettes, which are great. They are so productive, but one of the things we've been finding is we do need to be spot watering these a little bit more regularly to reduce the rot that comes through on the bottom when we don't. If we start spot watering regularly, that seems to phase out, but they have been producing amazingly, and I'm going to show you some more on those over here in a minute.
Spot watering as opposed to what though?
As opposed to using our lines. So yeah, big learning this year. So we've put some drip lines into these tunnels for the first time for this season, and we're still just finding the balance of how long we need to leave them on for, the coverage that we're getting from them. And yeah, so some plants like this one here obviously isn't near enough to one of the drips, and so that's why then we're noticing some plants are suffering more from like the blossom end rot, whereas like this one here is probably closer to a drip line because this one doesn't seem so affected. It's also probably just down to the overall weather conditions this year. Things have been very, very varied for us this year in the south. We had a drought at the beginning of the season, so it was almost too hot. And then we had a whole big spell of rain and not enough sunlight hours. And we think as a consequence of this, tomatoes are being really, really slow this year. Now, as you can see, these tomatoes, which are always a later ripening variety, are absolutely covered in flowers. But we're noticing that the pollination hasn't been as strong this year, and I'm noticing that in my tunnel next door as well. Now, I believe that in the first part of the year that was due to just it being too hot because the flowers were actually terminating and falling off. And then I think the ones that had set, we've not had enough sunlight for them to come on as quickly as they normally would. So yeah, tomatoes are slow, but I know this just isn't the case for us. I'm hearing from other people in the UK that are experiencing exactly the same difficulties. So yeah, I think it's just a seasonal thing. But something we have noticed, again, which is really interesting, is the bottom end of our tunnel, which actually is slightly cooler. That's why I'm heading down this way as quick as I can, and gets good airflow because of the vent here. Our plants at this end, particularly this one on the end, is actually one of the most productive plants. And we've actually got some of our first tomatoes coming red from this variety, which is called Risentrube. And yeah, we do always find it's more like usually in October, we are absolutely inundated with tomatoes from these plants. So it's definitely a later variety. So yeah, we've got some whopping peppers here. And as far as I can remember, we only planted hot peppers in Dan's tunnel, in tunnel 2. So yeah, I'm going to have to check back on the order of all the varieties because they look amazing, but that's pretty big for a hot pepper. We've got the sweet potatoes in here, and the variety we've grown in this tunnel is Burgard. They are looking good in here. Obviously, we never know what's going on beneath the surface until we actually get there, but the foliage is looking great. It creates a lovely ground cover to help keep the other plants cool, to shade out any weeds that we might get coming through. So yeah, look forward to harvesting those. We'll be harvesting the sweet potatoes before the end of September because we found we've left it later in the past and it's not always the best way to go. So if we can sneak our way around the corner, round some more chilies and round our Cape gooseberries, which we absolutely love as well. And they give us a really nice late season crop of fruit. We have got some absolutely beautiful tropical plants of a type of taro here. And taro is something we're trying for the first time this year. Dan has planted out lots of different varieties, some of which are the bigger form of taro, which would just grow one big sort of tuber under the ground, which looks a bit like a swede. And then there's some other varieties called Edos, and they grow more smaller, like a cluster of smaller sort of tubers under the ground. And these two beauties here are the Edo form, and so we think that this will possibly be the variety for us going forward, and we're hoping that we'll be able to harvest enough of the roots or the small tubers to give us our sort of seed to keep us going and building our stock for the future. So yeah, that's super exciting, and these are just absolutely stunning. Their leaves are just beautiful and exactly the tropical look that Dan loves. So yeah, hopefully as we learn more, we're going to share more about this, but you know, it's really just getting going for us. So here you can see this is another plant of the cyclone pepper, and as you can see, look, lots of beautiful red peppers going on, and they're kind of a mild hot pepper. And yes, I'm hoping to smoke a load of those to make my own smoked paprika. We've got more beautiful melons down here. This plant's actually slid down its string. This one looks ready to go. So yeah, that's another one we're going to have to harvest in a minute. And then a couple more that can keep going. And we've got a beautiful watermelon here, which again, I don't think that one is that far off. So we're going to be enjoying watermelons soon. What happens, yeah, we find with the melons is they do, not so much the watermelons, they are a bit later, but they do come all at once. So you just kind of have to indulge in as much melon as you can eat for a little while. And so this is another plant of the trombone courgettes. And will you just look at the size of that? And we've not actually stayed on top of harvesting these as smaller courgettes as we did last year, because we've had so many courgettes from our regular plants outside. But that is absolutely fine, because you can just leave these to grow big like this, and then the skin goes harder and will eventually go orange and they become winter squash. So you can have them as either or. Last year we didn't have so many courgettes, so we used them more as courgettes, but this year we've got loads, so we're just letting the ones that want to go big now. If you want to see more about that, I've also made another video just about this amazing productive plant, so you can check that one out. We've had lots of beautiful basil. This is Thai basil. It's mostly gone to flower now in this patch, and I'm just letting it because it looks so beautiful. This was Genovis basil here. I have harvested quite a lot. I could do with having a bit more of a cut back to keep it going. And we do have some more Thai basil down the other side, which is a little bit younger, where I've been succession planting as well. So yeah, if I get in and pinch a lot of this out, these younger basil plants here will just keep on going. But yeah, you can see this tomato plant is slowly doing its thing. It's got lots of fruit coming on it, so we will have some really good harvest from in here. They're just going to be a bit later than they normally are, I think. This is another one of our Cape gooseberry plants here. Nice fruit forming up in these little kind of lantern cases, and yeah, they produce this beautiful little orange fruit that we'll be enjoying sort of September, October time. I think they normally come. Yeah, really good treat for that time of the year when not a lot else is happening. So we'll head next door into tunnel 1 now and show you what's going on in there. Okay, so this is Polytunnel 1, the tunnel which I largely look after more. And in this tunnel we are growing mostly a heritage variety of tomato called Purple Cherokee. And we grow this variety because the flavour is amazing. They normally produce pretty well for us. But this year they are just not doing their thing as much as normal. Again, just like I was saying next door, we have got a lot of fruit which is forming up, but for the number of tomato plants we have, we are not getting anywhere near the volume of tomatoes that we should be. So yeah, I'm tempted to try some different varieties next year, but also I do feel that a lot of the troubles we're experiencing is due to the season. So lots of learning going on as always, particularly in this tunnel. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. We've got lots of exciting things too. We've got some beautiful okra which are producing here that we just love chopping up and adding to curries, just to give us more diversity and some different things to what we would normally eat. I've got 2 loofah plants here, and we have at least got one good sized beautiful loofah forming that we can use to produce our own sort of sponges and scrubbers with. So that's really cool. In this tunnel I have only got 2 varieties of hot pepper, and that is the Cyclone again, and oh actually 3. I have got 1 plant of cayenne pepper which is there, and then I've got the jalapeno peppers in here. And actually I really need to start harvesting the jalapenos and pickling them, because yeah, they are ready to go as we harvest those when they are green. So yeah, lots to be getting on with. Oh my gosh, I've just noticed I've got a massive patch of bindweed here which has snuck in, which is a bit naughty, so I need to get in and pull that up. I also have watermelons in this tunnel too, so there's a few melons dotted around in this tunnel. I've got 4 that I can see just here, so there'll be a few more as we go down, so really looking forward to the watermelons. In this tunnel I've got 2 different varieties of cucumbers. Temperate is the green variety that I've got, and then we've got the yard-long cucumbers, and yeah, they've been doing some funny things this year. Again, I think it could be down to the watering situation. See, like these have just gone kind of more like the shape of an aubergine, when they should be like this, long, beautiful, ribbed. And these are actually a muskmelon, but they taste just like a cucumber. Wow, look at that big watermelon that I've got there. Just spotted that one. And you can see this one's a while off being ripe yet, because the stem's still all green, but the one we looked at in Dan's, the stem was going brown and it was starting to sound a bit hollow. So that's how you tell about the ripeness of the watermelons. I've got more cucumbers here. I actually really need to get in and harvest. A couple of these are getting a bit big. That one there is really as big as I would like to leave the cucumbers. So yeah, I'll be doing a water and a harvest once we finish filming this. And we decided to do this video today because it was actually meant to be raining nearly all day. So we were like, yay, great opportunity to get in the tunnels. But of course, it's actually been really sunny this morning. So we are slowly melting in here, but we're doing it anyway. Now, as you can see, actually this section of my tomatoes is coming on a lot better. So we are still going to have a good crop. But like I say, we've got at least 40 tomato plants and we should still be getting a lot more than we have already. Yeah, but there are some good ones, so I'm not complaining. Every year is different, and every year we learn different things and get different ideas. So that is part of the fun of doing all of this gardening and growing, as well as providing ourselves with so much beautiful food. And I do need to get in here and have a bit of a tidy up, you know, trimming back some of these old leaves. We've got a little bit of powdery mildew starting there. And what I am actually doing in this tunnel this year is, if a plant is really not producing right or it's stopping being productive, I'm actually taking them out just as soon as I can to create more airflow and maybe space for anything else that we want to grow. Super cool plant here. These are cucamelons. And as you can see, they are like baby watermelons, but they actually taste just like cucumbers. So they are super cool for kids, just for snacking on as you wander around in your tunnel. I'm just trying not to put this one in my mouth right now, because then I'll be chewing and trying to talk at the same time. Again, in this tunnel, we have left the trombone courgettes pretty much to do their thing, because we've just not needed to harvest them as courgettes. So yeah, we'll just let these harden off and yeah, have them as winter squash. There's some more. So actually this one down here, you can see the skin is starting to change colour. It's going quite orangey, and we've actually still got one in storage from last year, and I haven't cut into it yet to see how the flesh is, but it hasn't actually started rotting or anything yet. So that's pretty amazing in terms of storage, considering their skin doesn't feel that hard compared to some of the other winter squash that we grow. So these have been our stars. Down this end of the tunnel, we have got the sun gold cherry tomatoes. And I don't normally go for F1 varieties, but everybody always talks about this variety. And I'm so grateful that we did grow them this year, because these have been our early producers, and really at times the only ones that have gotten going so far this season. So they have been keeping us in tomatoes. I've got to come and do a good harvest in a bit, as you can see. We have got lots to get through. Again, in all the four corners, the same in both tunnels, we've got the Cape gooseberries. We've got another massive trombone courgette down here. So we really do try and pack it into these tunnels because it is such a valuable growing space. But some of the learning that I've been doing this year is perhaps around the things that are better or not to grow in the tunnels. So down this side, I have got sweet potatoes, I've got aubergines, and hiding in amongst all of the abundant sweet potato foliage is sweet peppers. And some of them have grown really well, but I'm not sure how well they are going to ripen off to go. They should be red or yellow ones, because obviously they are getting a little bit swamped by these sweet potato leaves. And the variety I've got in here is a purple variety, Molokai purple, which produces a beautiful potato which I love to cook with for its colour. But we're not actually sure if we're going to get any potatoes to harvest from these purple sweet potatoes, because we had a rat in the polytunnel earlier on in the season, and I'm actually really surprised that this foliage is even still growing, because the rat tunneled under all of the sweet potatoes exactly where they had been planted. So I think that he basically was chewing any of the tubers that were starting to form up. But somehow the foliage is still going. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But I'll see if I can find one of the spots in a second. There are some really big holes and places where he's dug up. That's just a smaller spot there. You can see that's been disturbed. But yeah, he's made a real mess under here. It's actually, the devastation is actually hidden by all the foliage. So we have had some really good harvests of aubergines, but they seem to come in waves, and we're actually having a little bit of a lull at the moment. And again, I think this is to do with the spot watering, helping the plants to set fruit or not. And yeah, I've just been away for sort of 5 days. And so this tunnel hasn't actually been spot watered in over a week now. I'm going to be doing that in a minute. But yeah, look, there was lots of flowers before I left, so there should have been lots more fruit forming up. That hasn't happened. The tunnel has still been being watered with the drip lines. But yeah, really interesting. At the start of the season, we were putting the lines on 3 times a week for about 10 minutes, and then doing a spot water once a week. And then we tried to stop the spot water, and that's when we noticed that things weren't forming up anymore. So I think maybe the soil dried out a little bit too much. And yeah, now we're trying to get everything rehydrated, and when we water more regularly, we notice things are better. So yeah, all learning. Aubergines though, somebody asked me on our Facebook page how I actually get the aubergines to grow, because they really struggle with them. And all I can say to that is, I think it's because we put a lot of plants in. I grow 2 different varieties, Black Beauty, which is your big kind of egg-shaped variety, and then I'll show you a couple in a second. I grow Long Purple, and the Long Purple ones, if you struggle with aubergines, is probably the one that's more likely to ripen off for you. They tend to grow through a bit quicker, but I think it's down to the volume of plants that we put in here, because I find I have some plants which will just be the productive ones and they will really go, but then there'll be some plants which just don't seem to produce at all. So that's the bit of advice I can give you around growing aubergines, is try and grow more plants than you actually would like, and then you'll find you'll get at least a couple of productive plants. So yeah, that one that Dan is zooming in on there is one of the Long Purple variety. Yeah, and they just ripen off a lot sooner. So one of my other favourite things that we grow in this tunnel is holy basil. and I absolutely love this plant. It is an adaptogen, which means it helps the body in times of stress. It will know which parts of the body to go in and help support. It tastes delicious, and it's just such a beautiful sacred plant. So I use this fresh, and I dry it for teas, and I also make tinctures from it as well. So I have it throughout the whole of the year. Absolutely love this plant, and it just smells divine as well. So yeah, down here I'm just spotting we've got some more of our sweet peppers. These are ones that should turn yellow, but yep, whether they will or not, time will tell. And then finally up the top here, which I'm not actually harvesting so much of in here this year because our outdoor variety is doing really well. This is New Zealand spinach. And again, interestingly, last year it grew better in the tunnel than it did outside. But this year, the outdoor plant is growing much better, really big, juicy leaves. But as you can see, the leaves on this one, whilst the plant is growing really abundantly, the leaves are a lot smaller in here. So again, all these interesting observations and learning that we get every year from growing our own food. So I hope you've enjoyed our polytunnel tour today. If you have, please make sure that you click the thumbs up below this video. It really helps us if you can do that. We love hearing from you and we love reading your comments, so please drop us comments or questions below. A massive thank you to our Patreons who really help to support our channel and what we do. We really appreciate the extra support that you give us. We thank you all for watching our videos and enjoying what we do, and we will catch you here again soon. Peace and plants!